Next, let us proceed in Book 5, which Aristotle says that justice, the highest of virtues, deserves a whole book, which is why Book 5 deals with every single aspect of what it means to be a just person living in a just society. So it means in Book 1 to 5 or 1 to 4, it's all about the truthfulness and the wrongness of a person. So it is all about what kind of person and aspect of persons. So in this book is all about justice. See, justice is not exactly a virtue for isolated individuals. It's not anything in that case. Justice can only be made sense of a community. So, in my own word, justice is ito yung parang pinaka kasalanan or nilabag mong. Parang kumbaga sa isang namatayan, kailangan mo ng justice. Aristotle defines justice as the lawful and the fair in justice includes whatever is lawless and unfair. So, the unjust person who is an overreacher wishes for the wrong kinds of goods. They desire only the goods involved in good and bad fortune, or goods needing qualifications or additional qualities, not the universal goods of the truth. One important application of justice is maintaining happiness in a political community by creating laws for the common good. So this kind of justice involves virtue in relation to other people. Justice is the complete exercise of complete virtue, since how a man acts toward other people is the true test of the virtue. So, dito nalalaman kung totoo yung sinasabi ng isang tao. So, Aristotle discusses which action is arise solely from injustice and not from other vices. So, he calls this action special injustice. They are characterized by the sole aim of the pleasure that results from making a profit. Special injustice is concerned physically with communities and political. So, system is since members can have equal or unequal shares of wealth. Aristotle doesn't think that a just society is a strict hierarchy ruled by a benevolent dictator, but something which is built around the values of equality, commensurability, and proportions. So, here are the different kinds of justice. First, distributive justice. It relates to equality of distribution. So, in the simple meaning, it is yung parang pagkapantay-pantay ng pagdidistribute. Should two people receive equal shares of good? So, yun ang sinasabi ko na pantay yung binibigay sa kanila. This depends on whether of two people are equal or not. If they are not, they should each receive a proportionate amount according to their worth. So, justice in this case is proportion. Next is rectificatory justice, or justice involving transactions, which is yung transactions, aims to make situations right by restoring them to a state of equality. We're restoring ng pagkakaparehas. A judge arbitrating a dispute between two people, for instance, will consider the harm and suffering inflicted on the victim of the profit earned by the offender. So, the verdict will make their fortunes equal. So, in this case, justice is the intermediate between loss and profit. So, it means, dito sa justice na to is yung parang yung kita mo at yung nawala sa'yo. So, in these financial changes, just as in a voluntary financial changes, each party gets an equal share. Nagkakaroon ng pagkakaparehas na pagbibigay. Next is reciprocity or mutual changes. is a form of justice involving the economic exchange in communities. So in this justice, it's all about economy and communities. Aristotle compares reciprocity to the eye for an eye, or principle of retaliation in law, often used to make offenders compensate victims fairly for damages. A just person will award himself and others what is proportionately equal, without favoring himself. So injustice, like character vices, concerns excess and deficiency. An unjust person will give himself more of the beneficial than he needs. So, it means mas binibigay niya yung beneficial niya kaysa sa kailangan niya sa sarili niya. And avoid the harmful more than he should. He acts this way when awarding goods or resources to himself. And when dividing goods or resources between himself and others, anyone who receives too little good as a result has suffered injustice at hands of the unjust person. So last is political justice. Involves the law governing free and equal people. The judicial process distinguishes the just from the unjust. It is possible to do injustice or commit an injustice act without being completely unjust. A just community needs a just ruler who will not be corrupted by the power. So in this political, they need a person who do not corrupt them because of their power or their positions. Political justice has two parts, which is natural justice and the legal justice. When we say natural justice, it is unchangeable and equally valid everywhere, while the legal justice is valid wherever people who have written downloads. So it means justice goes beyond the legal. Certain human enactments of justice can be used as measures, but natural justice is universal. Acts of justice and injustice are different from the just and unjust themselves. Aristotle goes on to explain the distinction between a state of justice and individual actions. Someone can do just or unjust actions without meaning to. However, they do the justice or injustice only if their actions are willing and voluntary. So it means it is parang nakasalalay ito sa galaw mo kung paano mo i-action. A just action done in ignorance or under coercion, for instance, making a payment out of fear, sa takot. So, it's not justice. Hindi siya justice. Likewise, an unjust action done in ignorance, perhaps striking someone you did not mean to strike, is error, misfortune. It is easy to understand the law, but it is not easy to achieve the state of being just. So, the truly just person has to learn how actions must be done and how distributions must be made. Acts of injustice also rely on the person's being in a certain state. Decency is related to the justice. Although their connections might not be obvious, there are situations in which no universal rule can be correct, not even the law of patakaran. Some areas of life cannot be legislated at all. A legislator can apply decency through rectification of law or adapting the law to fit the demands of the situation. Like architects adapt building to the shape of stone. So Aristotle returns to the idea that it is impossible to suffer injustice willingly, to support his belief that no one can do injustice to oneself. And justice and injustice always involve more than one person. It's not only in a one person, but it more person. A suicide, for instance, is considered an injustice to the city. because Aristotle admits a person's rational and non-rational soul can be in conflict, and they can suffer something against their own desires. But this is not equivalent to an act of injustice against the soul. So Aristotle transitions from discussing individual behavior in community to guidelines for the community as a whole. Justice and injustice are broad terms, and there are many ways to talk about two contrary states. As the two states can take multiple forms. Justice or instant can be general justice or special justice. Just and unjust actions can show up in multiple ways. So, Aristotle wants to provide helpful outlines, not specific directions. He wants to give readers the tools to behave well in their own lives. Injustice is a part of any discourse on morality. In the Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle defines equality as a major aspect of justice. So, ito yung pagkakaparehas. Equal should be treated equally. So, ititreat mo siya ng equal, parehas na parehas, walang lalamang. Similarly, people who are not equal should not be treated equally. That's correct. Justice, for Aristotle, consists of restoring or maintaining a proper balance. He hardly distinguishes the justice that deals with criminal cases and the justice involved in legal commerce, except to call the former involuntary and the latter voluntary. Justice can mean either lawfulness or fairness, since injustice is lawfulness and unfairness. The laws encourage people to behave virtuously, so the just person, who by definition is lawful, will necessarily be virtuous. Virtue differs from justice because it deals with one's moral state, while justice deals with one's relations with other. Universal justice is that state of a person who is generally lawful and fair. Particularly, justice deals with the divisible goods of honor, money, and safety, where one person's gain of such goods results in a corresponding loss by someone else. So in justice, it is all about fairness and lawfulness. And injustice is the lawfulness and unfairness. So, yun yung pagkakaiba. Nagkakaroon ng hindi pagkakaparehas sa sinusunod na patakaran, and then nagkakaroon naman ng pagkakaparehas sa susundin na patakaran.